LeBron still had a strong game with 27 points, 12 rebounds, 8 assists, 3 steals, and 3 block shots. Doncic had 38 points and Hachimura dropped 23, but that wasn't enough. A must-win Game 5 for the Lakers is Wednesday in L.A. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
If you missed our KBLA Talk 1580 Town Hall, the Altadena Eden Fire, 100 Days and Counting, you missed an evening of reverence, reflection, and reality.
You gotta live in the reality because this is it. Every day, you wake up, is this my life? Don't stay in denial because yes, it is. Don't stay in bargaining where you're praying for a miracle and if it wouldn't have happened, then this is what I would have done. It did.
Our panel participants kept it real. Really real.
I think, number one, it's amazing to me how we ignore systemic racism in our community, and as a people, we've apologized for so much, but when will we stop apologizing for what we have paid for? Because the truth of the matter is we paid for this.
You can always count on KBLA Talk 1580 to give it to you straight, no chaser. When you love folk, you tell them the truth. Seeking the truth, speaking the truth. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we don't black down. One,
two, three, go! I'm gonna try to keep it coming. Things ain't always smooth, but I'll be alright as long as I can find the groove. Yes, I will. Yeah. Somehow I know that I can make it. You seem to like my style. Don't you worry, I'm gonna be around a while. Yes, I will. I'm just happy to see you talk to me Frankenstein again.
Live from Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavismiley.show.com. That's thetavismiley.show.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, we'll talk politics, domestic and international, with the publisher of The Nation magazine, Katrina vanden Heuvel. In our third hour, two conversations. Up first,
the American brand, right? The United States was more than just a nation. It's a brand. It's a universal brand, whether it's our culture, our financial strength, our military strength. America rose beyond just being a country. It was like an aspiration for most of the world. And we're eroding that brand right now. And if you think of your behavior as a consumer, how many times do you buy a product with a brand on it because you trust that brand? You know you could buy like a similar dress with no name for less money, but you want the dress that you think is going to not fall apart in 2 weeks. You want the handbag that you think is well made. You want the television that you know that when you turn it on, it's going to work perfectly. You want the car that when you turn the engine on, it's going to run. And when it comes to money management, for example, there are many great American institutions whose the power of their brand, that they will deliver a fair service at a fair price, that they'll do well by their investors and put their investors' interests first, whether it's a BlackRock or Fidelity. These are global brands of immense power. But in the financial markets, no brand compared to the brand of the U.S. Treasuries. U.S. Treasury market, the strength of the U.S. dollar, and the strength, the creditworthiness of U.S. Treasuries. No brand came close.
That is the voice of Ken Griffin, CEO of the global investment firm Citadel. I've said many other times on this program that Donald Trump has had a sort of schizophrenic approach to the markets, or the markets have responded in a schizophrenic way, I should say, if I can get it out of my mouth. with regard to the way he's moved on the economy. But when you have a CEO of a major global investment firm like Citadel suggesting that the American brand or brand America is being tarnished and diminished on a regular basis, I think that speaks volumes to the impact that Donald Trump has had in this first 100 days on the markets. And so we'll commence hour three in conversation with award-winning cultural translator, author, and University of Michigan professor Marcus Collins with his assessment of brand America 100 days into Trump 2.0. On the B side of hour two, according to the CDC, black adults are twice as likely as white adults to have Alzheimer's, and yet black folk are the least likely to join clinical trials to study the impact of Alzheimer's on black people. I've had this conversation any number of times over the course of my career, not just about Alzheimer's, but about a variety of maladies, a variety of diseases and illnesses that impact our community disproportionately. And yet, for whatever reason, and I'm not stuck on stupid, I'm not naive, for a variety of reasons, starting with the Tuskegee Airmen, and I could run the list. But for a variety of reasons, black people tend not to be engaged, tend not to sign up for, to be involved in these clinical trials. And so I'm of two minds on this. On the one hand, again, not stuck on stupid, I get why we don't engage these trials. On the other hand, I often wonder whether or not we're getting the best medicine that we can get, given that not enough of us engage and involve ourselves in these trials that would allow them to better study the impact of these maladies, once again, on black people. All that said, on the B side of hour three, that is, a conversation with Ron Gooden about living as a black man with Alzheimer's. As I said, the CDC says that black adults are twice as likely as white adults to have Alzheimer's, and yet again, we are the least likely to engage in these trials. But we'll talk to Ron Gooden, who is living right now with an Alzheimer's diagnosis. We'll do that on the backside of hour three. But in this first hour, we are going to talk about the 100 days of the second Trump administration. And we'll be joined by our regular contributor, Dr. Michael Fauntroy of George Mason University. There's a whole lot to cover in this first hour. And if you didn't hear, I didn't see 60 Minutes last night, this was quite amazing. I've only seen this happen one other time in my career, where 60 Minutes goes on the offensive, if you will. At the end of last night's program, if you didn't hear what Scott Pelley had to say, let me just play that for you. You ready? You got it, Miles? Let me just play for you what Scott Pelley said at the end of 60 Minutes. If you've been following this story, we discussed it last week. The executive producer of 60 Minutes stepped down. He stepped down essentially because the Trump administration is putting its finger on, its thumb, I should say, on CBS. Sherry Redstone, who owns Paramount, the parent company of CBS, is trying to sell a big chunk of her holdings. The Trump administration has to approve that sale. And so here again, another network bending the knee. So the former exec producer of 60 Minutes could feel the pressure on his journalism. And we've all, I think, come to regard and respect 60 Minutes over the years. But he was feeling the pressure from Ms. Redstone about how they were covering particular stories on 60 Minutes. He announced last week he's stepping down. And here's what Scott Pelley, the longtime correspondent and anchor for 60 Minutes, had to say last evening.
In tonight's Last Minute, a note on Bill Owens, who until this past week was executive producer of 60 Minutes. He was our boss. Bill was with CBS News nearly 40 years, 26 years at 60 Minutes. He covered the world, covered combat, the White House. His was a quest to open minds, not close them. If you've ever worked hard for a boss because you admired him, then you understand what we've enjoyed here. Bill resigned Tuesday. It was hard on him and hard on us, but he did it for us and you. Stories we pursued for 57 years are often controversial. Lately, the Israel-Gaza war and the Trump administration. Bill made sure they were accurate and fair. He was tough that way. But our parent company, Paramount, is trying to complete a merger. The Trump administration must approve it. Paramount began to supervise our content in new ways. None of our stories has been blocked, but Bill felt he lost the independence that honest journalism requires. No one here is happy about it. But in resigning, Bill proved one thing. He was the right person to lead 60 Minutes all along.
We'll see how long Scott Pelley, that is, keeps his job. That's a bold statement from Scott Pelley at 60 Minutes about why the exec producer stepped down, feeling the pressure, once again, of the Trump administration on the way the news media does its business. We'll get our conversation started 100 days later with Michael Fauntroy when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on!
Hey, get in. What? Who are you? I'm future you. Constipation with belly pain still coming back? Yeah. Mia, our doctor figured it out. She said it's irritable bowel syndrome with constipation, or IBS-C, and Linzess could help you get ahead of it.
Linzess linaclotide is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. It's not a laxative. It's a once-daily pill that helps you get ahead of your symptoms. It's proven to help you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually. Do not give Linzess to children less than 2. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. Talk to your doctor and say yes to Linzess. Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LINZESS.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
You really about to do it?
40 acres in the mule, this is bigger than the music.
You really about to do it?
Yeah, they tried to rig the game, but you can't fake influence.
Who among us doesn't like black music? But Kendrick is right. This moment is so much bigger than music. These are serious times. We've got serious problems, and we need serious people who understand that slogans are not solutions. When you want substantial and sober analysis about things that matter to you and the ones you love, this is where you turn. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black.
The Comedy Connection series featuring KBLA's Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, and the alpha male of comedy, Ray Grady. We're going to transform relationship disasters into stand-up material live at Inglewood's Miracle Theater on May 31st at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. My clinical team will disclose all of your dating woes, while the alpha male of comedy, Ray Grady, has hand-selected supremely talented comedians to roast all of our tragic relationship choices. I dare you to bring your ex's phone number, because Ray, he's going to text it live, and the crowd will be sourcing emojis. Tickets are moving swiftly, so don't hesitate to grab yours at themiracleinglewood.com before I diagnose your dating history as a pre-existing condition.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed with Michael Fauntroy, Associate Professor and Founding Director of the Race, Politics, and Policy Center at George Mason University. Before we commence our conversation with Michael, in case you just tuned in and did not hear it, I think Michael was not on the line at the time, so I want to make sure he hears it. But this is pretty alarming. Again, Mike Wallace, I saw some years ago do the same thing at the end of 60 Minutes. Around another issue where the program was feeling political pressure, this around a tobacco story, as I recall. But this was Scott Pelley last night, again on 60 Minutes at the close of the show. It's only about a minute long. Take a listen to Scott Pelley last night.
In tonight's Last Minute, a note on Bill Owens, who until this past week was executive producer of 60 Minutes. He was our boss. Bill was with CBS News nearly 40 years, 26 years at 60 Minutes. He covered the world, covered combat, the White House. His was a quest to open minds, not close them. If you've ever worked hard for a boss because you admired him, then you understand what we've enjoyed here. Bill resigned Tuesday. It was hard on him and hard on us, but he did it for us and you. Stories we pursued for 57 years are often controversial. Lately, the Israel-Gaza war and the Trump administration. Bill made sure they were accurate and fair. He was tough that way. But our parent company, Paramount, is trying to complete a merger. The Trump administration must approve it. Paramount began to supervise our content in new ways. None of our stories has been blocked, but Bill felt he lost the independence that honest journalism requires. No one here is happy about it, but in resigning, Bill proved one thing. He was the right person to lead 60 Minutes all along.
That is a strong Michael Fauntroy and damning indictment. From no less than Scott Pelley. I don't need to color this first question much more than that. What do you make of what Scott Pelley said last night on 60 Minutes?
He essentially said that his boss, Paramount, was prepared to sell out journalism in exchange for a merger. And we've seen so much of this in all kinds of fields with regard to consolidation, perhaps no more so than in media, because there's been such a fight for so many media companies for eyes and ears, clicks, and so on and so forth. So there's an existential crisis. And now we have this issue yet again in which it appears legitimate journalism is being compromised at the altar of commerce, and it's bad for everybody.
Yeah. No naivete in asking this question, but how do you think writ large this frames the way the Trump administration is moving 100 days in? And I say this, I mean, what we heard Scott Pelley say last night about the way Paramount is watching and managing what it is that they say in their news stories. We could talk about ABC and the $16 million they gave to Trump. We could talk about Meta, no more fact-checking. The list is long, sadly, of all these media institutions that we could list, CNN included, the Washington Post, the LA Times. I mean, some of the granddaddies in this industry have bent the knee in these first 100 days. It makes a statement about them, but it also makes a statement about the Trump administration and the way they're playing this game. Let me take them one at a time. Again, no naivete here, but what does this say? Again, this monumental moment last night on 60 Minutes, what does it say? How does it frame, that's the better word, how does it frame the way the Trump administration is doing its business vis-a-vis the media? And I could throw the Associated Press on that list. Again, I could do this all day long, Michael. You take my point.
Yeah. So listen, I would broaden it even more to include the major law firms that are based here in D.C., many of which have also bent the knee. And I can just tell you from the legal community standpoint, people are on fire about that. But essentially what it is the Trump administration trying to flood the zone with as much pressure to be borne as possible to try to bend all of these institutions, higher education, media, legal community, whatever, you name it, to their preferred policy interests. So what it says about Trump is this is all encouraging. This is the kind of thing I need to continue to do the things to get where I want to be, which in my view is a fascist state that is controlling what is and isn't truth, or at least our access to what is or isn't truth.
Yeah. What's been your read? And this is a big question, but you can take it where you want to take it. What's been your read beyond these media outlets bending the knee? And again, there are many of them. We listed some a moment ago. But what's been your read of the way the media has this time around versus the first time around, covered or not covered, as it were, Donald Trump?
So I think it's easy to say they haven't learned their lessons, in part because it's true. I'm seeing the same mistakes now that I saw then. But at the same time, some of this depends on our willingness as a public to want the truth. And some people want to be entertained by their news, not informed by it. And as a consequence, we aren't always getting what we need. you and I both know that there's certain times of day you can turn on your television or pull out your phone and look at what you would consider to be trustable news sources, and then see conversations about things that don't really matter, and important things are being ignored or not discussed to the extent that they should. So I'm concerned. I don't know for sure that we are actually any better off now than we were, but I do think some of that is because we as viewers and consumers of news aren't demanding it.
Mm-hmm. When you say we're not demanding it, unpack that for me.
Well, think about the kinds of stories. As you know, the media, it's a business. So they're going to produce the kinds of reports on the kinds of subjects that get people's attention. Well, you end up with a small universe of stories, and so many other things are getting ignored. There's the occasional story about what's going on at HHS with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., but no deep dive on some of the policy decisions that are being made there. And the same can be said in a number of different departments and agencies. So, all these firings are taking place in the federal government, for example. I'd like to see more reporting on what's going to be the economic impact in those communities affected. So say, for example, everybody thinks that the federal government is just basically a D.C. thing. Well, about 11% of the federal employment is located in Washington, D.C., and black people make up about 20% of the overall federal workforce.
That's right.
Well, there are people being fired all over the country. And in some of these cases, we're talking about small to medium cities that you take 1,000 jobs out, you can significantly impact everybody else. And I haven't seen very much on that. And so that's an example of the kinds of things that I'd like to see more of. But we're focused on the obvious important stuff like HECSAF, for example. But some of these stories end up getting stale and fed to us at the expense of other things.
We tried to make that point on this program last week, indeed. And for those who listen every day, I hope that means you, and you. You recall our conversation with a sister who heads one of the unions, specifically as it relates to the employees at the Department of Education. She is based in Dallas. We talked to her last week and made the point very clearly that all these jobs are not just in D.C. They literally exist from California to the Carolinas, and so people all across this country, namely, as Michael Fauntroy says once again, and accurately so, disproportionately African American, impacted by these firings, these federal layoffs, these pink slips, pick your term. Either way, they're out of a job, courtesy of one Donald Trump and Elon Musk. As far as I'm concerned, the Tesla stock can't go down fast enough to get him out of Washington and back inside his company to try to save Tesla. As you probably heard last week, the Tesla stock is down like 71%. And so at some point,
not 100 though. We got to keep it. It's not 100 yet.
I got you. That's why I said it can't go down fast enough for me to get him out of Washington. But anyway, 71% of last week. Y'all keep it going. Keep driving that stock down. And maybe he'll get out of D.C. and get back to Tesla, whatever else he needs to do. But he needs to leave us alone in Washington. I digress on that for now. You said a moment ago, used a phrase a moment ago about the different communities these policies are impacting. Clearly, there is no community being more impacted by these federal layoffs, as we've just established, but also by what many are now terming the end of DEI. I see people really sort of waving the white flag. I think there are people all across this country who are waving the white flag in recognition of the fact, like it or loathe it, that we're witnessing the end of diversity, equity, and inclusion, not just in government, but in the private sector. Because you know how this works. If the government allows the private sector to get away with it, they will turn a blind eye as well. And so whether it's Walmart or McDonald's or Target or anybody else, they have abandoned these notions of diversity, equity, and inclusion because the federal government now, under Donald Trump, is looking the other way. If you can get away with it, then why spend money, why spend time trying to deal with it, even as we now live, and here's the irony for me, Michael, even as we now live in the most multicultural, multiracial, multi-ethnic America ever. Here's why it doesn't make any sense to me. I get the politics of it. I'm not stuck on stupid. It doesn't make sense to me because if we are, again, living as we are in the most multicultural, multiracial, multi-ethnic America ever, and you are a product producer, who are you selling products to? I mean, who is going to buy the stuff that you're producing if you abandon your effort to reach out to these multiracial, multi-ethnic, and multicultural communities? And yet, again, I see many people waving the white flag that DEI is basically over. from now and perhaps eternally, given what Trump is doing in this particular moment? How do you read that? Am I putting too much on it?
Not enough on it, honestly. I think we. So part of the issue for me with this is that it was always a weak commitment by corporate America. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure most corporate America actually viscerally believed in what they were saying and doing.
Right.
Which made it so stark and so quick and so sort of sad that they rolled over so quickly. Mm-hmm. And I think that as we go forward, and this is a much broader conversation, these multiracial, multi-ethnic communities that you're talking about, these multicultural communities that you're talking about, it's a really important time to begin to have some self-talk around how we spend our money. Because I just think that you got to line up with people that line up with you. If you continue to fund individuals, companies, corporations, however you want to frame it, that don't viscerally and sincerely support you, then you can't give them your money, and that's going to send the most powerful message. I think you F around and find out, right, mm-hmm. that the money that when the money dries up, you change your tune, and I think that's where we need to be. And then that's the whole bigger conversation about supporting black-owned banks and black-owned institutions in all kinds of parts of our country, and paying attention and having respect for our own money.
Yeah. I guess my exit question on that particular issue, I got more to cover with you, obviously, for the rest of this hour. But I guess my exit question on that issue is whether or not, how might I put this, is DEI dead, or can, like Jesus, it get resurrected on the third day? And the third day obviously would come after Trump leaves office. But is it dead, or can it be, or not, or is it dead? Can it be resurrected?
I think it is dead. Or certainly on life support. Yeah. And it can be resurrected. The reality is these companies are going to go where the winds blow them, mm-hmm. and a new president and a new cultural ethos will push them right back to where they were before Trump came to office. So I have no doubt that it can come back. I'm just not optimistic it's going to happen anytime soon.
No, I think you're right about that. When we come forward, I happen to know this. I've known Michael for years. Michael, I think it's the CBC. Is that the network you do commentary for in Canada?
CTV.
CTV, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Canadian television, CTV. So I raise that because I think it's a big deal, and I love this, that Michael is a black man, obviously, at George Mason. But Canadian television calls Michael all the time. He's a regular contributor, even though he's based in D.C. He's a regular contributor to Canadian television. Why do I raise that? Because I just love that a black man is doing that, and the Canadians are smart enough to take receive analysis from him. I think that's a cool thing. But more to the point, there's a big election in Canada, and I was just reading and preparing for today's program about this election in Canada that I've been following, and the way that Donald Trump and his thoughts and his commentary about annexing Canada have really changed that election there. The Liberal Party, the Conservative Party, Donald Trump is the issue there now. And Canadians are feeling some sort of way about the way that Donald Trump has maltreated them. And so he has become the issue in that election. And the guy who wins that election is going to be the guy that Canadians think will stand up to Donald Trump in the days ahead. That's a long way of asking what Michael is saying to these Canadians about our politics 100 days in to Donald Trump's term. How are we being viewed around the world? We're talking next hour about the value or lack thereof of brand America right now. But Michael has a unique take as a black man in Washington talking to Canadian television on a regular basis. I want to hear that commentary when we come forward and more on Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Bishop T.D. Jakes is stepping down from leading megachurch The Potter's House in Dallas, Texas, handing it over to his daughter and son-in-law, Pastor Sarah Jakes Roberts, and her husband, Torrey Roberts. This follows a heart attack Bishop Jakes suffered last year. He will continue to lead the T.D. Jakes Group. President Trump said he's disappointed with Russia urging Vladimir Putin to sign a deal to end the war in Ukraine. He called for an end to fighting Sunday after Russia's deadliest attack on Kyiv in nearly a year, which killed at least 9 and injured over 70. A new report from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York found that graduates with degrees in education, social work, or the arts earn the lowest median income 5 years after graduation. The report included only full-time workers with a bachelor's degree. And Cardi B will host WWE SummerSlam at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey on August 2nd and 3rd. She announced the news on WWE's X account. This is the first SummerSlam that will be a 2-day event. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers are in trouble. They need to beat Minnesota 3 straight times to avoid elimination in the NBA playoffs. The Lakers are down 3-1 after losing at Minnesota Sunday, 116-113. Lakers coach J.J. Redick confirmed that he does not have confidence in his bench, which was outscored Sunday 25-6. Redick played LeBron, Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, and Dorian Finney-Smith the entire second half. The group might have worn down in the fourth quarter. The Lakers were outscored 32-19 in the quarter and made only 5 of 18 shots. LeBron and Doncic were combined 1 for 8 and 0 for 3 on three-pointers. LeBron still had a strong game with 27 points, 12 rebounds, 8 assists, 3 steals, and 3 block shots. Doncic had 38 points and Hachimura dropped 23, but that wasn't enough. A must-win Game 5 for the Lakers is Wednesday in L.A. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice. Continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
KBLA Talk 1580 and the California Black Chamber of Commerce invite you to the Small Business Development Workshop, How to Do Business with California Government, on Thursday, May 15th at Victory Park in Pasadena, 2575 Paloma Street. Get certified and register as a new bidder. Sell products and services to the state. Learn about pre-bid events and more, and it's all free. All you have to do is sign up at www.calbcc.org. That's www.calbcc.org. Registration for the Small Business Development Workshop, How to Do Business with California Government, begins at 9 a.m. and the workshop concludes at 1 p.m. on Thursday, May 15th at Victory Park in Pasadena, 2575 Paloma Street. This is a community call to action from the California Black Chamber of Commerce and KBLA Talk 1580.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
He's a paradigm pioneer. and the top-rated African-American talk show host in the nation, according to Talkers Magazine. You're tapped in with Tavis Smiley right now.
Tavis Smiley and Michael Fauntroy, who is the Associate Professor and Founding Director of the Race, Politics, and Policy Center at George Mason University. Love hearing his analysis. Michael, before I get to the question I posed a moment ago about Canada, we'll get to that in a moment. I'm wondering, as I think about it, how the Race, Politics, and Policy Center at George Mason, under your leadership, is archiving, chronicling, you picked the right word for me, this moment for posterity.
Well, we do a lot of video events, and we're archiving all of those. And I'm sure we talked about this, but Dr. West came and did our first event 2 years ago and knocked it out of the park as usual. And so we're collecting it that way. We have a few written reports that we're also archiving. The reality is what's going on at the national level in terms of trying to rewrite history and remove access to history, as we see with the Smithsonian African American History Museum, among other things. It's also happening at the state level.
Yeah.
And for those of us who do this kind of work and are interested in this kind of topic, at a state university, which I am at State University, in places where the legislature could be hostile to those kinds of things, have to be more careful and tread a bit more lightly around how we deal with these issues as it relates to keeping them accessible to the public at large. I teach a course on race and American politics to undergrads and graduate students. And my university a year or so ago was one of two in the state of Virginia identified by the governor's office to review course material and course content to make sure there weren't any DEI or woke things taught in it. Now, so far, I haven't had to change anything that I've done. I haven't been asked to explain anything that I do. But I'm just raising it here because that's another example of the ways in which the archiving, the protection, and the accessibility to the work that I and so many other scholars around the country, historians, sociologists, psychologists, you name the field, have to keep in mind as it relates to making sure that what we do is not lost to history.
Yeah, I asked that question. It just came to me because it's going to be vitally important years from now when the historians start digging into this particular moment in American history. Rather, it's going to be fascinating what they come up with, and it's going to be, I think, important that institutions like yours archive and chronicle what's happening in real time. Because, as you know, they'll be trying to change the story somewhere down the road, right? It's what Trump is doing right now, trying to revise. We'll get that revisionist history decades from now. But to my mind, again, it's important that somebody be archiving and chronicling specifically what's happening around issues of race and politics for historians in the years to come. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Let me just make a quick point on that.
Yeah.
This is why so much of what's happening with the attacks on higher education funding from the Trump administration is so important. So you think about an institution like Harvard, and the president wants to take $2 billion from for grants. Well, an institution like Harvard could fill that gap. But the truth is, not having that funding impacts the future of research in those spaces, because those dollars go to fund, in part, graduate students who are doing the research. And so when you cut the money, you end up reducing the number of graduate students that we can produce, PhDs who are experts in these particular areas. And we end up with a long-term brain drain in a way that makes us weaker as a country, not stronger.
Yeah. You mentioned the Smithsonian a moment ago, and I want to just follow you on that because the Smithsonian is disputing claims that artifacts are being removed from the African American History Museum. There are reports that crucial artifacts and exhibits have been removed. We know that the director has been removed. He stood down. The brother who ran this museum has already left the building, the National Museum of African American History and Culture I'm talking about specifically. But then these reports started to surface that certain exhibits and artifacts were being taken down, were being removed. The Smithsonian has pushed back on that claim and suggested that that's not altogether true. Their statement is that these artifacts are being removed as part of a routine loan agreement situation. I know what that's like. As you recall, I did an exhibit called America I Am, the African American imprint that traveled the country for 4 years. Many of the items that I curated for that exhibit are now on permanent loan to the Smithsonian in D.C. So we did this exhibit that toured the country, and they came to see what we had curated, and some of that stuff ended up there. I ain't mad at them. The point is that when you have these loan agreements, when the loan agreement is up, then you have to return the item to whoever the rightful owner is. That's what the museum is saying, that we're seeing stuff disappear because these loan agreements have come to their end. That's what they're saying. But that ain't the story on the streets. That the director has left the building and some of these exhibits are coming down. I don't know what the truth is. I'm not on the inside, but what's your read of the story itself?
Well, it is true that there are loan agreements that have expiration dates.
Yep.
And if the Smithsonian wanted to keep it, I'm sure they could reach out to the owner of the artifact and request an extension. And I don't know if they've done that and been denied or haven't done it at all. Be that as it may, there's so much there's so many artifacts that can be cycled through these museums to help keep them fresh and help keep people coming to see them.
Yeah.
So I get that. I also know what's being said on the streets too, and
yeah, you are on those streets in D.C. Yeah, you're on the streets.
I'm on those streets.
Yeah,
I'm in the barbershop, and I know what people are saying, and we do have to be careful with that because I saw your America I Am exhibit when it was in D.C.
Yep.
And you know how this works. You know, sometimes people see something one day and then they come back later and don't see it and assume that there may have been something nefarious around it. Mm-hmm. I don't know that there is. I am confident, at least at this point, that the people who are there are still able to do things the way they want. But as you know, we're only 100 days in.
Yeah.
And things can change. And I think it just requires more vigilance. And by the way, let's just encourage everybody listening to us to come to D.C. this summer if you can, or come to D.C. at some point this year and check out the museum, even if you've been here before, because it is a spectacular cathedral to Black excellence.
Yeah, there are a couple of things in that regard. One, we don't know where the truth lies in this story as yet. What we do know is that Trump has said publicly, he said it in his executive order. I don't have the exact quote in front of me. I quoted it last week. But his point was that he doesn't like the stories they're telling in the museum. He thinks those stories are revisionist history. And so he said in his executive order. I encourage you to download it. You can find it online. Just read Trump's executive order about the Smithsonian, where he was very clear about the way he thinks this museum and the exhibits that it puts up routinely is telling a story about America that he ain't fond of, a story that he believes is inaccurate, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm just paraphrasing, but just Google the executive order that Donald Trump put out relative to the Black Museum in D.C. And read for yourself the way he sees the work that they're doing. And to Michael's point, I just put a finer point on this, that any of our institutions, not just museums, but any of our institutions, and there are many right now, that are under attack in this country, courtesy of Donald Trump, we need to find a way to support. Because the long-term concern about this particular museum is the funding, right? If the Trump administration cuts the federal funding for this museum, then this museum is going to be in a hard way. And the question is whether it has to close its doors or acquiesce. Now we're back to that conversation Mike and I had earlier about bending the knee. Do you close the doors? Do you rally all the rich Negroes in America to give money to support the museum and keep it open once they cut the federal funds? Or do you acquiesce? So it's a tough spot to be in. I recognize that. I'd hate to see the doors close. I'd hate to see them acquiesce. I hope this story isn't true, that they're taking down certain artifacts and certain exhibits under pressure from the Trump administration. I don't want to see that sort of acquiescence, but it may come to a point where we, Black folk, have to put the money up to keep this museum open. We shall see. I hope that's not the case, but clearly this museum is on his target list. I digress on that for now. More with Michael Fauntroy of Georgia Mason University when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has WorkSource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewdd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
After producing an award-winning climate justice campaign in 2024, KBLA Talk 1580 has gone all in on its 2025 Climate Justice plus Black Health Initiative. April is Minority Health Month, and Urban Family Focus, in partnership with Providence Health Systems, presents The Heart of the Matter. Providence doctors and health equity officers will participate in informative and life-changing conversations on hypertension, health equity, behavioral health, and community engagement. Don't miss these empowering conversations on Urban Family Focus every Saturday in April at 7 and Sunday at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Sponsored by Providence, Southern California's largest and most comprehensive health care network. We've got a lot to talk about on KBLA Talk 1580. Download the KBLA 1580 app or log in to KBLA1580.com. I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. On KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley, Michael Fauntroy, Associate Professor and Founding Director of the Race, Politics, and Policy Center at George Mason University. So we got caught up, as we should, talking about the Smithsonian and some other issues. But I want to circle back now to the point I raised a few minutes ago about your being a commentator for CTV, Canadian television. And I mentioned this major race for a new Prime Minister. Justin Trudeau is done. And I saw coverage at least of a big debate last night in Canada on the eve of this election, liberal versus conservative, and the race has been dominated by Trump and his talk of annexing Canada. As you likely know, doing what you do for Canadian television, the tourism from Canada has dropped significantly, almost as bad as Tesla stock. They are not coming here to vacation this summer because of the way they are insulted by Donald Trump's remarks. And so the winner of this election in Canada is going to be the person, as I read these stories, who Canadians believe will best stand up to Donald Trump, and it's not the conservative candidate. And so I am curious as to what you've been saying as a contributor, a black man no less, a contributor to Canadian television. What have you been sharing with them about these first 100 days? Michael Fauntroy.
Well, there are a couple important points that I try to make as frequently as possible, and that is he is sort of guardrailed by a number of constitutional things that means that some of what he's saying is never going to happen.
Right.
And the key is to sort of figure out and understand what's possible and what isn't. And even some of the things that are possible may not be possible in the way that he's talking about it. Now, we know all this foolishness that's gone on with the tariffs and how that's had an impact. One of the things I have to say, the Canadians have been, he has done more to unite Canadians than anything else that could be happening internally.
Yeah.
You mentioned Canadian tourism. Let me give you one more piece to that. Canadians own a disproportionately and surprisingly high amount of vacation property in Florida. And almost all of it is going on the market now. So the Florida housing market right now is literally going through the floor because there's too much inventory and not enough money and wealth to buy it all up. So Florida's state economy is in big trouble now. And so I think the Canadians understand, or are beginning to understand, that just because he says something doesn't mean it's going to happen. And the sort of overall anger that his policies are developing, and the way in which some people who thought he was their friend from a policy standpoint now know that he and others don't actually know what they're doing, is creating a bit of energy inside the United States that will prevent him from doing all of that he really has to do. Now, it's still early. Things could change. But you look at his poll numbers, they have been in decline almost immediately. And now he's below 40% in some polls. And so Canadians are watching. I will just tell you the Canadians are so sort of focused and always been really smart about what's going on in the United States. They pay way more attention to us than we do to them, and that's unfortunate. But the Canadians got it, man. They're on it.
Well, I just love that Canadian TV is smart enough to ask a brilliant black man named Michael Fauntroy to offer analysis to them and to their national audience as frequently as they do. Our remaining moments with that Michael Fauntroy when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
At Exquisite Family Mortuary, we know how overwhelming it can be planning a meaningful farewell for your loved one. Secure your peace of mind by calling Charlotte White at 323-577-5562. That's Charlotte White at 323-577-5562. From traditional funeral services to memorials to direct cremation, pre-needs, and more. Call Charlotte White at Exquisite Family Mortuary for Southern hospitality in Southern California. That's Charlotte White at 323-577-5562. Exquisite Family Mortuary is located nearby in Inglewood, California. Exquisite Family Mortuary, where your loved one becomes our loved one.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Less monologue, more dialogue. Tavis Smiley continues right now.
I've got just a few minutes left in this hour with Michael Fauntroy, and I want to give the last 3.5 minutes to him. We've talked, obviously, in this hour with some specificity about what the first 100 days of Donald Trump looks like. We'll do more of that in our second and third hours today. Katrina Vanden Heuvel, publisher of The Nation magazine, coming up in just a few moments in our second hour. So we'll certainly get her take on that and her take on what Scott Pelley said last night on 60 Minutes, in case you tuned in late and didn't hear that. So we'll have an hour with Katrina Vanden Heuvel of The Nation magazine coming up in just a moment. So Michael's our leadoff hitter today, and I'm grateful for that. But again, we talked about some specifics in the first 100 days, but here's my exit question. Broadly speaking, in an overarching sort of way, what have these first 100 days said to you? And alongside that, what do these first 100 days say to you about what we can expect for the rest of his days? Michael Fauntroy.
Well, you and I both are aficionados of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and to sort of steal a line from one of his book titles, I think he's chosen chaos over community.
Wow.
And I think that chaos is being sort of accelerated by his insistence on appointing loyal but incompetent people to important positions throughout the federal government. It will be years before it's fully revealed how much damage he has already done in the first 100 days. You look at the firings of critical people across the healthcare space, across the scientific space, the education space, the justice space, right? Among other things. There's just been incompetence and chaos and problems all across the board. But you know what, Tavis? That's what they want.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what they prefer, because a chaotic society is an unstable one. And an unstable one is one that makes it easier for them to achieve their own goals and do the things that they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's chaotic on purpose. And those of us who are much more interested in community and justice and making sure that government works best for the most and everybody gets an opportunity to go as far as their ability and ambition will take them, have to stand up, have to be present, have to speak up, and let them know that you're not going to get what you want without a fight.
Yep. Beyond the sycophants who surround him, do you believe that this is what his base, those persons who voted for Donald Trump, did they want this kind of chaos? Is this what they wanted?
Tavis, I think they didn't care as long as it didn't hurt them.
Wow.
But now, in some cases, it's hurting them.
Mm-hmm.
Now the question will be for me is, how long are people's memories?
Yeah.
People have short memories, and there's a long time before we get to the 2026 midterms. So a year from now, things could look very different. But as it stands right now, there's a whole lot of pain out there. Just think about all of the pain that was caused in the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, and how some people just forgot all about that and the million people who died as a result, and voted to elect this guy anyway. So I'm a little cynical and not as optimistic about the American electorate as I used to be, right?
Yeah.
But I do think that people who thought they weren't going to be hurt are now being hurt, and that offers a potential glimmer of hope.
We will ask Katrina Vanden Heuvel, publisher of The Nation magazine, in just a moment what she thinks these first 100 days portend for the rest of Trump 2.0. But for now, I am grateful to Michael Fauntroy, associate professor and founding director of the Race, Politics, and Policy Center at George Mason University, for his thoughts about the first 100 days. Michael will do it again, and hopefully it won't take 100 days to do it. But thank you for your time, and I'll talk to you soon, man.
All good, man. Thanks.
Appreciate you. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Bishop T.D. Jakes is stepping down from leading megachurch The Potter's House in Dallas, Texas, handing it over to his daughter and son-in-law, Pastor Sarah Jakes Roberts, and her husband.